It's not going to be start to finish. So,
That's right.
I brought kind of some props because I have never really done this before. I have always loved the thoughts of my mission. I've loved to review my mission journals. I've kept this. This is one of my. I think this is the first year or something like that. I actually haven't. I just opened it up and look at different things that are in here. This is my what do you call these? Daily schedules or agendas.
Your planner?
Day planner. Day planner. Yeah. Thank you. And so I looked at this the other day because I went to Brazil recently, and my companion was one of my companions I met with. He was telling me that how many discussions we would teach, and then I met this young man who's an old man now. He's not old, but he's married. He's already served a mission, and he has kids. And one of his kids, that returned from his mission, went to the same mission that he served in, and he was the same elder name, and he ran into people that took the discussions from his dad 30 years ago.
Wow.
And so he just got back from his mission. And so we were visiting and talking, and he said, and he was one of these 16-year-old boys at the end of my mission that ran with us. We went on splits every single day for about 3 months. And these last 3 months, we were teaching lots of people, like from 50 to 75 families, in order to teach them and keep up with the discussions. And our goal is to at least come back every week. And sometimes in Brazil we would come back more often than that. We had to split because we were teaching 20 to 30 discussions a day. And so we had to do splits. It's impossible to do that. And so we would do splits with these young men. And these young men were baptized on my mission. Some of them were baptized from other companions of mine, other people that went on the mission from the MTC with me. And some of them we baptized. And they were these young men, and they would go on splits with us. And so they were younger, and we would run, literally had to run to make them. I went to do a little, I don't know if you call it a seminar or a talk. I think I was invited a couple weeks ago to give a talk in at just a little devotional after church, at night, a couple weeks ago in Brazil. And one of the Elders Quorum president in this who introduced me, he said, Scott Anderson was my zone leader. He was in his last area of his mission, but it was my first area of my mission. And I've never... So, I'm just quoting what he said, okay? So, I'm sorry, because some of this stuff sounds very prideful, and I just don't mean to... But I've never met anybody who has worked harder. I've never known anybody now, presently, and I doubt that I will ever know anyone who will run like him. We went on a split, and a split is when, as a zone leader, I and my companion would go on splits with all of our district leaders and companionships, and we would just see how they're teaching. And when I was new on the mission, my zone leaders did that with me. It just helps us to all be on the same page and make sure we're doing things right. And so, as a zone leader, I had all this paperwork to do. You have all this stuff you got to do. You got to take the stats of how many discussions times 24 missionaries, and I got to send this into the mission president. Waste all this time with this stuff when there's so many people out there that need to be taught. That's the way I looked at it. This is the wrong way to look at it, but I was. So, anyways, this elder, he said, he just said, he said, here's my one experience. I did one split with Elder Anderson, and we had about 5 hours together. He said, I've never met anybody who can take an hour-long discussion and condense it into 30 minutes and still get all the points across and still somehow have the time to let them know that he loves each member of the family. And we would go running through people's yards, across fields, across the highway. We would run down these cobblestone streets, and we would be entering this house. We come up to this house. We're about a block away, half a block away. He takes out this white hanky, and he gives me one, and he wipes off his face. He's wiping off his shirt because it's literally dripping. He's wiping this thing and sticks it back in his pocket, and then he walks in, because that's the way we knock the door, because everybody has walls down there around their houses, and so they answer and they welcome, and he's so calm. Well, moments before that, we had this really steep hill we needed to go up, and I was exhausted, and he's pushing me up this hill, and he says, and this dump truck comes by. Actually, it was a garbage truck, and he says, "Elder, grab hold!" And we jump onto this garbage truck, and we ride to the top of this long, windy hill. So we got a little rest. And then we ran the rest of the way to this discussion, wipe off her face. He walks in, and there was no other concern in his mind except for this family. This was who the whole world revolved around right now. It's this moment.
And that's what he's saying about you.
And that's what he's saying about us in this discussion. And so we would sit down and we would teach this discussion, and we would leave. And he said, and then you walk out the door as calm as could be. He shares his love with them. We're half a block away. As soon as they shut the gate to their wall, "Come on, Elder! We've got 4 more to go and only 3 hours to do it in." And that was his experience. And some of these, like this is a day in my mission, and these circles are all discussions that happened. The numbers are all discussions that sometimes we didn't get them all. These extra pages here, because I couldn't fit it all on each day, so I would tape in these extra pages. And sometimes I only needed an extra little bit, and sometimes it was, but lots of days I had these extra pages that I had to write in because I couldn't fit all the addresses, the notes to remember their names, and things like that. So, and when I look back at that, I think, what a blessing, what a gift that Heavenly Father gave me to be able to have the strength to do that, because all it was for me was fun. I had an absolute blast. It was hard for me to sleep. We had to get to bed at 10. We had to be in the house by 9:30, I think. We were supposed to be in our bed by 10:30. And so I asked President, so this is another companion that I met down there, and he reminded me of this just recently. I didn't realize. I thought this was just in the last month or two of my mission. But this was my first companion that I'm going to share a story with you about when I became a senior companion. So 4 months into the mission, when you live in another country and you're even a missionary, and 4 months, you don't speak the language still. I mean, you really just, you think you might be getting a grasp of it because you got it a little better than the MTC. But when we would, Jamin, hi, how are you? Welcome to my family. Everybody, this is Jamin. My dear friend. Oh, that's okay. You come in and come and go and do anything you need. So this is Elder Lamos that I'm going to talk to you about. He was I was his first companion in the mission, is what it was. That might be the easier way to do it. So 4 months into the mission, the Lord sees fit to call this very green still missionary. And this story that I'm going to tell you about, what I don't want to forget, so please help remember, is this experience is the gift of tongues. 100% the gift of tongues. And this is how I know. And I actually just realized this on this very trip that I just took just now. So many people that I returned to visit this trip, I spent 2 weeks down there. Just about everybody I've met everybody I talked to on the phone because I couldn't fly to that city or this city. My mission then was I was like 9 major cities, and it was like the size of Oregon and Washington together, maybe parts of Idaho. And so now every city that I served in and the other cities that I didn't serve in are all missions themselves. So anyways, we would forgot my thought. Elder Lims, my first companion. So 4 months in the mission, I'm supposed to train him. He speaks fluent Portuguese. That's the country we're in, and he's an amazing missionary. He comes from, his father was the first person baptized in the whole northern part of Brazil, okay, which is like equal to the whole western side of the United States. The United States is about equal to the size of Brazil. And so half of the United States, he was the first person. You think of one dot on the western half of the United States, that was his father. So he's had prophets in his house. He has pictures of prophets eating at his, James E. Faust ate at his table. James E. Faust served his mission in Brazil. Spencer W. Kimball, he has pictures with President, other prophets. And so he's just a dynamic individual and a wonderful missionary. And so I'm there in Brazil, and these people that I met from the mission, companions that I had, and people that we taught, are all saying that, wow, you speak better than you spoke when you were here 30 years ago. And just about everybody. And then I have practice, and my daughter-in-law speaks is Brazilian, and so I have opportunities to speak, and I speak through WhatsApp and through different Skype, and so I get to talk with people, and I get to use it. And I listen to the scriptures in Portuguese, and I listen to the ensign in Portuguese, which is called the Leahona, and I study, but still, I'm not living there in the country. For it to be better, and they said that I speak better now. And I've tried to learn the grammar and learn the sotaque, which is the accent, a little more. So, and I believe that's true. I believe that I speak better now, clearer and with more understanding now than 30 years ago on my mission. So here's the gift of tongues. If I speak, because when I'm speaking to these people, to them, I've got to speak awful. I don't speak, perfect Portuguese. And they're saying that I speak better than when I spoke at the end of my mission. Okay, this is where I was when they were saying this. So I'm 2 years into my mission. I've been studying. I had a goal to speak not one word of English for 10 months. For 1 year, I lasted for 10 months because I met some people that didn't speak Portuguese. And then went back to the last 2 months, and I made that goal minus that one little thing. And I didn't speak a word of English except for when I'd call home. And so this is at the end of my mission. I'm speaking the best that I ever did on my mission. And it's these people that I've revisited, and they're saying, you speak better now than you spoke then. So now go backwards to 4 months into my mission and imagine how bad I spoke. Okay? How bad I spoke. And so these are the people I'm teaching. This is the tongue. This is the broken, very broken Portuguese that I'm speaking with. And I had a picture that I was going to show you, but it doesn't matter. So 4 months into my mission, I'm working with Elder Lims, and we set a goal. And I suggested that we pray the last week of this month and how many souls are ready for us to find, that the Lord knows. Because He knows, right? He knows how many people are ready for baptism, who will be willing to accept the discussions, and He knows that. And I was taught this in the MTC by a wonderful teacher. I couldn't wait to do this because I tried to get my senior companions to do this with me, and they wouldn't do it. They just thought, oh yeah. And maybe they couldn't understand me. That's probably what it was. I don't know what he's talking about. Sure, Elder, we'll try that next month. Nevertheless, we did that with this elder. He was ready to do it. So we prayed, we wrote down the number, we both felt was right, we handed it to each other, and we opened it at the same time. I was with him for only 2 months, and both of those months was the same exact number. Okay? And I never tell numbers of baptisms and how many people I baptized and stuff like that, but my whole time here. But there is some reasons that I can. So these mission presidents and stake presidents are telling me in Brazil, and there's reasons for that. And so these were both in the 20s. These goals were both in the 20s. An average missionary in my mission was every month was baptizing between 2 and 9 people, and so ours was in the 20s. So people were looking at us like, right, calm down a little bit, Elder. And we reached those goals, and so that set a precedent for Elder Lemos. This was his first companion in the mission, and so he went out. We were there for 2 months, and in 2 months he taught probably more discussions, because we went on splits back then too. It's not an easy task necessarily. You probably teach 3 times the people to baptize 20 people. You have to, that's just the way it works. And so we're still teaching a lot of discussions back then at the beginning, going on a lot of splits and being together, teaching a lot of people. And so here I am on splits, 4 months into my mission, speaking practically nothing, with these 16-year-olds, or sometimes high priests, it didn't matter. And then sometimes with Elder Lemos. And Elder Lemos was amazing. He would not correct me. He would not really help me. I was at the door so this is at the beginning of my mission. I'm just at the door. So this tells you how broken my Portuguese is. I'm saying, well, it's good to meet you. Okay? Well, in Portuguese I would say, it's muito bom de conhecer você. But that doesn't make any sense. I would translate it exactly in Portuguese, from English to Portuguese. And they would look at me like this. And I would look at my elder, my companion, and go, little help here. And he'd tuck himself farther on the other side of the door opening, just letting me do this thing. Oh, you're doing good. Try it again, elder. And this is the way he would teach me. And so I would rephrase it, and I would rephrase it again. And then he'd maybe give me one word that I could try. He would not tell me where to put it in the sentence. He would just tell me one word. And so this is how broken. I couldn't even do a door approach. They couldn't even understand me to get into the door. And then eventually he'd come and help me, and we'd get in the door. Oh, that's what he was trying to say? They'd always talk to him, right? And so we get in, and equally we would teach the discussions. And they would say things like, from that door approach to the end of our conversation in this discussion, they would ask me, what part of Brazil you're from? And I had that happen quite often. And so that's why I know for a fact. And I didn't remember those experiences until just this trip down there. And it all came together in me understanding that is why. It wasn't because Elder Anderson spoke good Portuguese. That is not why these people were converted. If there's any testimony that it's the Spirit that converts, it's this experience that I'm sharing with you right now. The fact that I couldn't even explain to these people that I wanted to come in and share a message with them. All I was saying actually was, how are you today? Good day to you. Or, that's all I was trying to say. And they couldn't understand that. I was trying to say that first, so then I could say, do you mind if we come in and share a message about Jesus Christ or about families, our typical missionary approach that we can do. And this is after I memorized these things, right? I memorized these approach. I memorized these door things. And they still say, just my language was awful, I'm sure. I was just so, the American, the English accent, it was everything. And I just realized 30 years later that's what was happening. I laughed at and I'm thankful for my companion letting me sit there at the stake on fire going, ah! And I had I had a zone leader that did that too. And then this companion did that as well. And it was just great because it really taught me how to speak better. But full circle, what it did is it helped me understand this that I learned this month. I learned that it was completely the Spirit that taught these people. Because as we're in the discussions, they would answer. And they would, there's the typical joke that you sit there and teach somebody a whole principle of the gospel, and then you ask them, what do you think about that? And their response is, that's a really nice tie. Where did you get that? Which means they understood nothing. Sometimes that will happen because I wasn't humble enough, and I needed to be brought back to the fact that this isn't me. This isn't Scott Anderson teaching these people. I am preaching the gospel and the Spirit teaches. So, here's a couple little things of what I'm basing some of this on. And I think, I don't care. So good. Thank you so much for coming. Love you. So,
Scott,
yes.
so that shows that the gift of tongues works both ways.
Clearly.
The Spirit translates your broken whatever into what they need to say. The same thing. Help you say the right thing.
We have these experiences from our prophets, who were over in, I think it was Joseph Fielding Smith, maybe Joseph F. Smith, I can't remember, but they were over in Hawaii. So one of the first missionaries over there when he was 15 years old. When he went back, he was speaking, and of course, back then Hawaii was Hawaiian. They spoke that language. They didn't speak English, like Americanized, like it is now. And some experiences are, everybody in the group hears that language, and sometimes there's multiple people that hear their own language. I think it can work in so many different ways, and it's just really amazing to be able to understand and just converse and have. Sometimes it can just be simply that he's helping me speak the language better in that moment when it needs to be. Or if I'm still speaking this, I couldn't tell you because I just learned this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know. I asked my companion, what does that mean? What was I doing? What did I sound like? And he said, I don't remember any of that either. I just know that they understood you and they felt the Spirit. And do you remember when so-and-so asked you what part of Brazil? You must be from Sao Paulo, he said. Southern Brazil. Back 30 years ago, they were very poor. And they didn't travel a lot. And so they had, like we have the South. And the South is very, the different, we have the Texan accent. And we have you know all these accents, right, Tricia? And so you got the Southern, over in Virginia and that type of thing. And all those are different accents. Because a lot of people stay in their state, Well, down there, just imagine that they don't stay in their state. They stay in their town. They stay in their, they're called their bairro. Their little, a city would be chopped up into maybe 10 different, like just the size of Rainiers, 10 different sections. Like we have Delina and we have Gobel. There would be 10 of those little Delinas and Gobels all over here. Those are called bairros down there. And they don't leave their bairro. They don't leave their street. That's where they live, generations, because they just don't have the means to travel and for schooling and such. So back then, the accents were very different. And so these people I would sound like I was Paulish, which means I was from southern Brazil. Okay, and so that's a majority of people would say that. You must be Paulista. You must be from Sao Paulo. That's just a thing that, like a Texan, right? That's what they would say. You must be Texan. And so, anyways, and it was really funny to hear that from a door approach that they couldn't even understand me, and have their mind go, oh, that's why I couldn't understand him. Maybe out there, because of that thick Southern accent that he's got. Because clearly I can understand him when he's talking about this, the gospel. And so, anyways, some of the things that I learned that I wanted to share is I had a commitment to the Lord before I went on my mission, and during my mission in the MTC, I committed to keeping all the rules, and I did a pretty good job at that. And so that, I know, is what brought these blessings, is because the little rules of getting in at night on time, of leaving on time, that was never my problem. Mine was leaving too early. Mine was wanting to stay later because I wanted to just keep on working. But I asked the mission president one time, when I became senior companion, I said, now, I want to teach him right. I want to be the best example I can be. But I also want to, work more. And I was wondering, can I leave earlier? Can I come back later? Can you give me authorization to do that? And I'm teaching this many families, and I'm just ready to go. And he said, I can't authorize you to come back later because it can be scary in Brazil at night. He said, but you can leave earlier. Everything's pretty. And so, when do you want to leave? I said, I'd like to leave a couple hours earlier. We usually leave at 7:30, 9:30. And so I got authorization from the president to leave it at 7:30. He said, however, Elder, I only want you to do that with companions that are willing to. You need to humble yourself, and you need to realize that everybody's not going to have the ability to do this. Okay, and it's okay. They're still good missionaries. And so this first companion, I asked him if he was willing to. And and he says it today, I just met him, he says it even now. He says, I was your companion, and I knew that the Lord gave me you to learn what I needed to know in this mission. So I was willing already. He came into this mission, and the Lord knew that all this was going to happen. And he said, I was going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because my companion was going to get up at 5 o'clock. In order to do that, I needed to get up 2 hours earlier too. And we got the mission rule is to get up at 6:30. And if you get up at 6:30, you are a good missionary, an excellent missionary. It is totally okay to do that. And I have to tell everybody down there, it's not something that, everybody's supposed to do or should do. This is just something that I chose to do. And so he was willing to do that with me. And I had 5 companions throughout my mission that were willing to do that. And that we traded. With each one of those 5 companions, we traded those numbers at the end of the month. And they were always exactly the same. And just that alone makes me know, you just know that God put that number and put that number, and then we baptized that many people. That's how many people were baptized, except for 2 months. There were 2 months that I did something wrong. I was not humble enough. And it wasn't anything that I needed to talk to my bishop about, but it was something that I needed to talk to the Lord about and learn for myself. And he taught me this lesson that I'm still learning today. The first one was I had a district leader. I was just a greenie companion, right? I was a senior companion with Elder Lemos. And my district leader, we had 4 of us in this home, and we set out goals together to baptize this many, to find and teach and baptize this many people in this area. And their number was in the 20s as well. which really blew me away. And I'd never known any other companionship, any other missionary to be thinking that big. And then I had a district leader that was willing to do that. I'm super